As you look at the tree, I want you to think this way. Ultimately, this is what you learn in Kabalah. There is really only one tree, the tree of life, the middle column. But for the purposes of humankind, because we live in a world of dualism, two side pillars are constructed. Our work is to bring them into alignment with the center column. So, if then you bring these dual centers in, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you have the 7 chakras. So it's an important piece to see that it relates to all that you already know. Now the other piece that helps us to quickly get some sense of it is, here is what is called the upper face, the heavenly world. Okay? See this little diamond shape? Here is what is called the lower face. Okay? The lower face is the dense world in which we live. We have a physical body and physical reality. We have a psychological nature, more the instinctual nature at this point, the unconscious. Here we bring together heart and mind. Here's emotion and the mentalness that comes together. And here is what we would call our higher consciousness, our holy consciousness. So, here's the important piece. The upper face, the lowest point, is the face of the Christ. Of the lower face, the highest point is our Christ consciousness. So here is the place where we connect with the higher world. It can be a very, very meaningful map, and that's what I want you to see. Now, if we say this is the Christ, then we want to realize what the work of the Christ consciousness, or the love wisdom we would call it, or the overlap where the worlds come together. They are to create, receive the energy of the higher world and distribute it to the lower world. And that's all of our work. When we realize Christ in consciousness is to receive the energy of the higher and distribute it through the living of our life in the reflected world or the lower world. Okay? What happened in Christianity, what really happened in Christianity when it separated itself from Judaism, was that it became more pure than it needed to be. It did not stay grounded in the same way that native religions and the Judaic religion did. In other words, it began to deny its material nature, its sexual nature, its earthiness. And in that denial, it began to make those things bad, unhealthy, repressed. By repressing them, we have Christian tradition that has a big shadow. Now, I'm sure people wouldn't always like to hear me say that. But I believe that most of us have learned that that's true. Native religions, or the Jewish religion, by its nature, tends to be more comfortable with issues around money and sexuality and ego, and there's a lot of pretense in the Christian tradition. And part of what we're trying to do by acknowledging it is get over it. See? What Christianity did is it took this little middle section right here and tried to develop it without touching the instinctual nature or the material plane. And in fact, that's why we get so to be hypocrites, perhaps. Now, actually, I have often said when people say, well, there's nobody that was going to that church except hypocrites, and I always say, oh, be so glad they're going, because maybe they'll get it, okay? It's an important piece. But really, what we tried to do in the Christian tradition was just emphasize what I call love, freedom, beauty, and joy. And those are very important attributes, and they need to be emphasized, but they have to be grounded in our daily life, not for us to be one. In the teachings, we get into issues around this angel we think we are and the dweller we think we are. That this side of ourself is our go to church on Sunday that's so pretty and so good and so perfect and always polite and doesn't say a cuss word and all those kind of things. And we just are this pretty shining person. And then there's this other side that we see ourselves at other times so guilty, so bad, so unworthy, all of those things. Well, that is dualism. And we have to recover from that. And the recovery takes place in transformation. We begin to know ourselves, we begin to understand. Some of the things we blame ourselves for had nothing to do with us, and some of the things we take credit for had nothing to do with us. And we begin to clean this up and get to be a real person. And in being that real person, we begin to make progress in our spiritual development. So, part of the work of Kabalah is to understand there is a map, and that we have inherited a very valuable map, and a map that says we have to understand our lower face, we have to understand our instinctual nature, we have to get over thinking we have to walk around holier than thou, and just be disciples. And that's what you can really gain a lot of that from Kabalah, because you begin to get ideas that can be helpful. I want to show you another piece that I always like to show. Is look right here. If you pull this up, you have a pyramid. See? You have your sides around the pyramid, where remember that Kabalah had its origin in the Egyptian mysteries. Moses was temple trained. And so that wisdom came through Moses to the Hebrew people and to us in that kind of a way. Now, as you will see stuck on this piece of cloth are the tarot cards. And that is because each of the paths have a symbol that talks about how the energy of that pathway, when you meet it, what it's like. And tarot of itself has great wisdom in it. And Manser, with whom I studied the tarot, cautioned us a lot about using tarot cards for readings, largely because there is a collective thought form with them, a heavy energy with them, because they have been misused and used by people that did not know the teachings. They only read cards. And so when I learned Kabalah and the cards, you were to use them only for yourself, and you used them to locate yourself on the tree or to ask a question about your spiritual life and your journey, and you kept your cards as like inner oracle, if I would say it that way. And so if you didn't use them with other people, and that way they were only a very personal tool, a kind of meditation tool. Now, I know that people read them and do different things with them. There is a lot of wisdom in the tarot.